If you want to see a really effed up movie, then this is the movie for you. Hey guys, Melinda here. Today we are talking about the new movie, The Suicide Squad. I was a little hesitant to watch this movie because I had seen the original Suicide Squad and I didn't know what to expect from this, and I guess I still don't know how to feel about it after I've seen it. I have some thoughts about this movie today, so we are gonna go ahead and just jump right in and get started. For those of you who haven't seen any of my other movie or TV reviews, I like to review it in a way that gives no spoilers, so that way anybody can click onto this video and get an idea if they want to go watch it. And let me tell you, the Suicide Squad was a trip. It was definitely an adventure, kind of a little crazy. Just to give you guys an idea of what this movie is about, if you haven't already, there is the first movie, Suicide Squad. This is set in the DC universe. I think it's the government, a fraction of the government is coming together to create a task force to defend the nation against whatever threat there is, normally something supernatural, that kind of phenomenon going on. And so they take villains that have been arrested and are in jail, put them together in a team called the Suicide Squad. They are set to go out on missions, and if they succeed, then they get 10 years taken off of their sentence. If they fail, they die. Yeah, that's kind of a really messed up kind of contract, you know, but I guess it's motivating. You want to survive and complete the mission to get out of jail. So that premise applies to both the original from, I believe, 2016 and this new one that came out this year. It is in a continuation from that first movie, but you do not need to see it to understand what's going on. They do a very great job at the beginning of the Suicide Squad to explain what's happening. Don't get me wrong, I think it is a very neat idea and concept. I was so thrilled when the original came out. The theatrical release wasn't the best. I rewatched it to prepare myself to watch the new one, and it still wasn't the best. If you go watch it, I absolutely recommend watching the director's cut, because I have seen that version as well, and you get so much more of the story that it completely changes it and makes it a better movie. The theatrical release doesn't really do that at all. So if you go see the original, definitely recommend checking out the director's cut. This movie is streaming on HBO Max for just a limited time and also in theaters, so I was able to watch it through HBO Max, and let me tell you, it was insane and crazy, psychotic, very not much what I was expecting. It's been getting a lot of positive feedback and people are liking it. My mom told me that she liked it and to expect a death. I honestly had no idea what to expect going into this movie except for that. I really fell out of my rocker on this one. Truly the best comparison I would have for it. There is an HBO original DC TV show called Doom Patrol. I really do like that show, and I love the universe that they are creating because they also have Titans. I don't remember if it's an HBO Max original series or just an HBO series. That show is so beyond messed up and psychotic that the Suicide Squad reminded me of that. It's just very similar feeling and vibe to it, directing, cinematography, that I thought was interesting. I figured I have kind of rambled on a little bit leading up to it. Let's go ahead, jump right into the specifics right now. So first and foremost that I say is that this movie has a lot of familiar faces, like kind of a surprising amount of familiar faces. Gonna rapid fire through this because there are a lot of them, and I do apologize if I say any of their names wrong. We got Margot Robbie, John Cena, Pete Davidson, Sylvester Stallone, Idris Elba, Nathan Fillion, Taika Waititi, David Dastmalchian, Joel Kinnaman, Michael Rooker, Sean Gunn, Alice Braga, Jay Courtney, Viola Davis. So as you can see, there is a lot of cast. Just pulling that up, it said that there was 103 cast members. That is a lot of people in this movie, and that is definitely a lot of big names. Very surprised that they were able to get that many big names. Also surprised that they would want to participate in this, you know? know? The first movie got such a bad reputation that I had low expectations going into the second one. So yeah. So yes, it is a sequel to the original Suicide Squad, but you do not need to watch it in preparation for this. Again, it gives you all the information you need to understand the story. Really, the only thing is that there are some similar characters that were in the original and in this sequel, so they kind of already know each other, they already have a relationship. That's really the only thing that you'd be missing, but at the same time, you wouldn't really be missing. This movie was very graphic and brutal, 100 times worse than the original. I think it's because the original, I believe, was PG-13, but this one was rated R, so they had that wiggle room and the capability to make it as flamboyant as it was. It definitely felt like they were trying to amp the antics in this movie compared to the original movies. I do want to say that the cinematography is very fun and it is very different. Kind of fits into an action kind of movie, just the way that some of the scenes are shot, the angles. We have very fast camera motion, zooms in, zooms out, things like that. But I thought it was executed very well and it made it very fun and entertaining. The only issue is that with some of the quick camera motions, I got a little dizzy while watching it. That itself kind of turns me off of the movie, because if I'm gonna get sick while watching it, I'm not gonna want to watch it. That is something that I wasn't the biggest fan of. The movie starts with a very jaw-dropping scene, a very shocking opener that I wasn't expecting it for it to be this intense this fast, but it definitely grabs the audience's attention and makes you want to watch the whole thing now. If that's what we start with and what we're presented with, that's a good thing it has going for it. And I like that it isn't predictable in that way, because I had no idea that the film was gonna start off that way. So one of the main characters would be Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport. We are drawn to have sympathy for him by introducing a story arc between him and his daughter. I won't reveal what that is because spoilers, but I will just say though that the way that it is written and the way that it's portrayed in the film, it felt kind of weak to me. I don't know, their relationship didn't do anything for me. I know it's supposed to be a plot driver and create sympathy between those characters, but I just could not relate or sympathize with either of them. I get what they were going with having this storyline between the two of them, but I just feel like it could have been so much better and could have easily drawn sympathy from the audience and have a good story between the two of them. But I think it was just that itself was poorly executed and not done very well. This has nothing to do with the films. I just wanted to state that I have like 3 favorite characters: the weasel, Sebastian the rat, and the shark. I don't remember his name. All 3 of them are so humorous, very comedic characters, and just are what add to the fun and the entertainment portion of it. Those were my favorite characters out of this whole movie. Something that I noted, and I haven't really determined yet if it's a good or a bad thing yet, something that this Suicide Squad movie has that the other one didn't is that it tried to incorporate a lot more of the DC villains. So it felt like they were trying and forcing to put as many villains that they could into this film. I don't know, I guess that would be a bad thing because it feels like they are trying to force it, and you don't want that feeling when you're watching a film. So I guess that would be a negative that this film has. The comedic portions of this film are very immature and distasteful in my opinion. There's a lot of penis jokes. That is just not my cup of tea. That's not my kind of humor, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's poor humor, it just isn't my type of humor. That level of comedy was sprinkled throughout this entire film. That's what to me makes this film feel so immature, and I guess I'm just not a big fan of that. I really like clever and wit to be the comedic elements and not just a penis joke every other sentence, you know? It tries really hard to be funny because of that. I will admit that there are some moments that got me to laugh, but the other stuff just made me uncomfortable, and again, I was disinterested, and I thought the humor was poorly tasted and very immature. There is a scene when John Cena is basically naked, but he's in a very tight pair of tighty whities, and his package looks unusually large. I can tell that this is purely because John Cena was in the movie. Really, it felt like to me that whoever decided it, whether it's the writers or the directors, said that we need to have a basically naked scene of John Cena and show off his muscles and just have a really good looking dude who's naked on screen. And it's supposed to be for a comedic reason as well. So again, it just kind of falls in the line that it's not my cup of tea. It's not my kind of humor. I was very uncomfortable with the bulge that John Cena had, and that whole scene just threw me for a loop and really did not like that scene at all. So remember when I said at the beginning that one of the things that I was told going into this is that there is a death? Well, that is a huge understatement because there is a lot of death in this. It ties in with my earlier point where it's very graphic and brutal and violent, not for the weak eye, if you know what I mean. Definitely some moments that I was not prepared for. I would describe it, if you have seen The Boys, that level of graphic and violent. And it can be gross at times, so fair warning. Aside from Bloodsport, the writers try to incorporate some backstories for the villains, and I can tell that it's because they're trying to draw sympathy for these characters. Not only for Bloodsport, for several of the characters that it was very poorly executed and didn't do a very good job, because I had no sympathy for these characters whatsoever. I could not feel connected to them whatsoever and feel related. If you want that for a character, you need to incorporate a lot more human elements towards the beginning of the film instead of trying to just out of the blue give them their backstory, their sob story, and try to draw sympathy from the audience. There is a character shift that I will mention from the first movie going into the second movie. The leader of the Suicide Squad, Colonel Rick Flag, in the first film, he is a hard ass and wants to get the job done and does not care about any of these characters, does not care if they die or they live or anything. He is just wanting to go in and get the mission done. His character in this new film has really loosened up. Joking, he's making friends with all of these villains. He just doesn't feel like the leader that we were introduced to in the first film. I didn't like that dynamic and I didn't like that character shift. It felt very out of place and not how his character should have been at all, especially being the leader of all of these dangerous criminals and is trying to be buddies with them. That just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't feel realistic. I wasn't a big fan of the character shift that they made from the first to the second film. I love that they give Harley Quinn her moments to shine, to have these awesome fight scenes, but the film isn't centered around her because she was in the first Suicide Squad movie. She had her own standalone movie. So I was concerned that with as big as they've made this character, that she was gonna be a very prominent character within this film, which she wasn't. She was included and she did have her side story going on, but she wasn't the center of attention. It wasn't mostly just focused on her, which I absolutely loved, and I love that they gave her her moments but did not make it another Harley Quinn film. There was a scene when there is this absolutely downpour of rain to the point where it wasn't visible for some soldiers to see what's going on, and there's like this giant fight scene going on. Within 5 minutes, it was cleared and you could see through the rain again. And that just kind of bothered me because you could tell that that was just trying to be movie magic and make the scene more dramatic instead of realistic. So I don't know, just that whole scene kind of bothered me a little bit. I thought the ending was executed very well. It was very fun and entertaining and I really did enjoy it. It actually makes you want to root for the bad guys, which is very rare in movies. That is definitely a good thing that this movie has for it. And of course, the way that they ended it, open-ended, so there can be another film. They leave open that possibility, and I will say though that I do not want them to continue the Suicide Squad franchise, but I think it would be interesting to see some of the characters get their own movies, you know? I just don't think the Suicide Squad franchise should continue. After the first film flopped and this one is completely 360 from the first one, I just don't think that this franchise should continue. So end result, I thought this movie was okay, leaning towards good. It wasn't the best, it wasn't phenomenal, but it wasn't terrible. It was definitely better than the first film. I will give it that. I can tell that it was really trying to compete with the original though, and basically try to replace it. I know I've heard that a lot of people are trying to say that the first one basically didn't exist, but considering that this is kind of a continuation from that first film, you cannot just completely discredit it. A comment that I wrote is that this doesn't feel like a DC film. The way that I describe it, we have Marvel and we have DC. Marvel is really good at capturing action and comedy. I think they do that extremely well. DC, the movies that have been most successful that I like and think they do really well is when they focus on a really dark story. So they need the brutal, they need the bloody, they need the violent, probably not as crazy as what Suicide Squad was. They do dark storylines so well versus Marvel, I would say, is kind of on the lighter, happier side. So this film does not fit into that DC mold, and I don't say it necessarily fits into that Marvel mold either. It's kind of, it's not a happy medium, but it's definitely a medium. Doesn't feel like a DC film, and I wish that it did because that's what they do so well. Yeah. There is a important post-credit scene, so if you do watch this film, make sure you stay tuned for the end of the credits. This is definitely a what the F kind of movie. Can't really describe it other than that, just a lot of stupid, crazy, jaw-dropping, shocking stuff that happens. There we go. There are all my thoughts and comments about the Suicide Squad. Even though I was hesitant to watch this film, I'm really glad that I did because then I'm able to continue and pursue the DC universe and see how they grow and what they create. I guess I would recommend just for everybody to go watch. Again, it wasn't my cup of tea with the humor and some of the stuff that happens, but that could be very up your alley and you guys might like it, so definitely recommend for you guys to go give it a try. I guess that is pretty much it. If you guys want to go into any discussion about the specifics, please leave it down in the comments down below. I'd love to talk about it with you guys. Other than that, I guess that is everything for this movie review and this video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all for the support. If you like this video, go ahead, give it a big thumbs up. It would absolutely mean the world to me. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already and you want to see more content. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Live life, always laugh, and enjoy the journey. Bye.